Zion will end up being Jamarcus Russell.
If you're not on the court this season, I think we have to mark him over as a bust.
This is going to be one of these arguments was about how you feel about a player versus what player is actually better. I love AI. One of my favorite players of all time. He is not as good a player as Devin Booker. Duncan should be higher on the list than Kobe.
His resume is so close to Kobe's, but Kobe's flashier and cooler.
ISO, welcome to another episode of Hard in the Paint. It is your boy JBobby, and usually I like to yell on the ISO, but I'm not going to yell today. I'm going to pose a question. Kyrie Irving, is he overrated? I know I said last week he's the best scorer of all time, but I have to really think about this. Is he a product of the LeBron effect? If you think about Kyrie Irving, what has he done after LeBron? Pretty much nothing. And before LeBron, he didn't do anything either. So when you think about Kyrie's career, he has only a few more years left to prove anything to anybody. So my thing is Kyrie Irving overrated? Around the key where we pass the ball around like the Golden State Warriors, we got Dexter Henry in the building, the SNY post god. Let's clap it up for everybody. Woo!
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate you having you on.
Thank you.
For people that don't know, what do you do?
So if people don't know, I am a sports anchor for the New York Post SNY, the digital partnership. I do that. I also host my own NBA show called the NBA Exchange, but a veteran in the sports journalism game in this New York metro area. So a veteran, man.
OG, as we like to call it.
That makes me feel a little old, but I guess you could say that.
Does Jimmy Butler deserve more than Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. You can criticize Jaylen Brown for his game.
Okay.
And I saw you guys talk recently about the fact that how overpaid he is. Somebody always has to be the most overpaid. Does Jimmy Butler deserve more money than him, guys? Absolutely, because Jimmy Butler's a better player. However, in the words of Snoop from The Wire, deserve ain't got nothing to do with it, right? Deserve ain't got nothing to do with it, and sometimes you're just going to get paid a product of the way the contract cycle is. But Jimmy Butler's absolutely a better player. We've seen what he's done in the playoffs. We've seen what he's done in the regular season. We've seen how he's elevated his team. I'm not saying I think Jaylen Brown is trash. He needs to work on his left. He's turning over the ball a lot of the times. But Jimmy Butler, he absolutely deserves more money. If it was just a free market where we could just pay people whatever they deserve, he would get more money.
I don't think it's about deserving. I think it's about like age, right? You think about it. It's a college point.
Okay.
If you look at Jimmy Butler's 33.
Right.
But if you look at the NBA now, like I think players are playing longer and like they're preserving their bodies. A different era. Like before, when you hit 30, it was just like you old as fuck. Get out of here.
Right.
But now, like players are like, if you look like LeBron and Steph, or even like KD, like these players are playing longer now and they're still in their prime and their peak. They're not washed up playing. Like you look at like maybe like a Patrick Ewing on like the Orlando Magic. It isn't like that. So I think Jimmy Butler has a solid maybe 4 more years in him. So do you want to give a guy that's 33 that type of bread?
That's a different thing. That puts a whole different animal on it. And you guys can tell me if you agree. But yes, if you're looking at investing in a guy who's 33 and what's the most I can get out of him over those next 4 years, maybe you get 2 good years of what you saw from Jimmy Butler last year, maybe, and that might even be asking a lot. No, I wouldn't pay him more money than I'd pay Jaylen Brown over those next 4 years. If you ask me for 1 year, like next year, just who would I think I would pay more money? I would pay Jimmy Butler more because I just trust what he's done in the playoffs to this point that he could do it again next year.
Miami Heat, like they're loyal to their guys, right?
Yeah.
If you look at Kobe Bryant when he was around, and his last years when he was kind of washed, they did right by him and they paid him. Jimmy Butler is kind of the same thing. Obviously, he doesn't have the rings, but they're still in championship mode right now, right? So let's say if they don't get Dame, right, and you want to keep Jimmy Butler, you know the market for him is high and he's going to want to get paid. Do you say, all right, fuck it, we let Jimmy walk, or do you say, all right, we have to pay him to keep him there?
If they let Dwayne Wade go out because it was a business decision and it made more sense for them to, try and rebuild and improve their team, then they're going to let Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, that's...
And it doesn't, like, if you look at the guys who've gotten Supermaxes the last couple of years, they're all in the 20s. The latest, some of the oldest guys were Russ and Beal. Russ signed his when he was 28. Beal signed his when he was 29. And now we look at those contracts like they're bad contracts.
But here's my argument.
James going to be 34 next summer.
D-Wade was washed at that point. The reason why Bron left is because he saw D-Wade wasn't the same D-Wade anymore.
He
gave out.
I'm agreeing with you
why
on
would
that.
you give D-Wade that type of bread if he's no longer serviceable? Like, at least for a long
I'm
amount
just saying,
of
like, Pat Riley has shown that he is all about competing and he will choose having a better team over, taking care of a guy.
If D-Wade was healthy healthy and still in his prime and still had those healthy knees that he used to have as a young buck, you think that they would have kept D Wade and gave him that bread?
I don't think so.
I still don't. I'm actually agreeing with you. I still think they would have looked at the long-term future and what he could have done for them. And I think that's the point you're making there that I actually do agree with you on, right? Yeah. It's that the Heat are always thinking about how they could turn this thing around and move this thing over. Pat Riley's going to say hell no to that Supermax, okay? Now, he might say, can we extend you on a lower number that can work for us? Yes, I think so. But if you're talking Supermax, I think Pat Riley is like, yo, get out of here, man. Like, we're not doing this. Because I think we're kind of splitting hairs there. That's what we're talking about. It really depends on how much they'll pay him. I think they'll want to keep him around for the loyalty that you mentioned. You brought up Kobe but the difference there too is Kobe won him rings.
That's
Butler
a fact.
ain't won him no rings, right? So that's the thing.
It's deserving for Jimmy Butler, especially what he's done with this team in the past 4 years. 2 finals appearances, 3 conference finals appearances. He should get paid, not the Supermax money, because that's way too much money for that. I mean, if you want to pay him a lot of money, front load that contract, right? Give him a lot of that money in those first 2 years. Then the back half of that contract, you're not paying as much because, yes, he is getting older. You don't know that uncertainty. You know you'll get 1 or 2 more years left of Jimmy Butler. And on the Wade situation, when he came back to the Heat, he was still good. Like, he was good when he came back. Like, it was those weird times when he was with the Bulls, when he was with the Cavs. It didn't really make sense. It didn't look good. He was decent.
It was fun.
He was good at his last game.
And we were all happy to see him. He had that game winner where it got blocked, and then he got it and shot again.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That was cool, but they weren't winning games.
Listen, the Heat,
That's that
Pat
one,
Riley
yes.
is the ultimate businessman. I'm going to win no matter what. I will trade everything. It's my way or the highway. And he'll trade picks after picks after picks, young guys after young guys, whatever it takes to win. So if Jimmy Butler's demanding that Supermax, he'll say, all right, see you later. We'll just get the new superstar in and try and figure out a new way of doing it. And they'll find a way. They always find a way.
I'm going to quote Jim Jones. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. And that's what it is right now. Jimmy Butler, to me, isn't a superstar. Jimmy Butler is great. I think when we talk about that dog, he has that in him. But I think Jimmy Butler is an overachiever. He doesn't strike fear in my heart. And I feel like every time there is a superstar, there is a big name player, it's a player that you see and you're like, all right, I'm scared of this motherfucker because he could destroy my team, right? When I think about LeBron, when I think about Jokic, who is a superstar now, when I think about Giannis, I think about those type of players, or Steph Curry. Those players strike fear in my fucking heart, and I think that's why they are superstars, because how they can change the game and who they are. Jimmy Butler is a great player, but I think when it comes down to it and you look at other superstars, I don't think he matches up to those top-tier guys.
Heat fans are going to come at your neck for this, right? They're going to come at your neck because they're passionate, and they're just angry. They're angry. You're ready to get them.
Yeah, I'm a Heat fan.
When you come to town, people are coming to see you, okay? No matter what city you go to. Are people really trying to come see Jimmy Butler like that? I don't know. That doesn't mean Jimmy Butler's not a good player. I think he's probably a top 10 or 12 player in the league. Jimmy Butler's really good. He can carry a team so far, though. I think you're saying there's a cap on his star ability.
Can you name your top 5 superstars?
You going with Curry?
Okay.
You got Giannis. I'm going to put Luka in that category. I know we're going to get to him later. I'm going to put Luka up there. Absolutely Jokic. And I'm going to put fifth. I'm going to go from, you can go either LeBron or Embiid. I'm still putting LeBron in that superstar category. I'm going to go with LeBron, and I'll put Embiid is kind of teetering right there as well, too.
But you can make an argument that people don't really go to games to watch Embiid either. Like, if Embiid's in town, I'm not like, Joel's in town. Oh, yippee. Like, I'm not jumping out.
I'm with him on that. I'm with him on
That's
that.
because you hate Joel Embiid.
I don't want to go watch him shoot free throws and fall over the ground.
Yeah, but it's still Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid was an MVP, first of all. So you're saying you're not going to see the MVP?
He doesn't strike fear in my heart.
I understand why.
Joel Embiid doesn't strike fear in your heart?
The only players that strike fear in my heart is like Steph Curry, because you know he could shoot from anywhere and he'll take you out. LeBron, because it's LeBron. Giannis, because he's a freak. And pretty much Jokic. Those are the only really, and maybe KD, but KD's like teetering on that. But like, those 4 players are really the only players in the NBA that scare me when they're playing my team.
You have to have a combination of both, right? Like that, that fear factor, and also showing up. Because I also think, as good as Jokic is dope, but nobody's really coming to see Jokic. Nobody's excited by Jokic. I like watching him play, but not everybody.
Small market nuggets.
It's all about perspective, especially that term "strike fear in your heart." I feel like that's something everyone has different answers to. Like, so you're a Lakers fan, and you smoked Jimmy Butler and those boys in the finals. Like, it wasn't a contest. You brought up Curry. I'm thinking like Western Conference guys. So the guys that you're used to playing. I'm sure Milwaukee Bucks fans have nightmares of Jimmy Butler. Yes. None of us here are Milwaukee Bucks fans, but
that's right.
I follow a team in the East and I watch Jimmy Butler. I agree with you that like the whole superstar thing, it's more so that if we're going to call him a superstar, then we need to invent another tier, like elite star. Because I'm not ready to say that Jimmy is on the same level as Giannis, because Giannis is a little more consistent, but I'll say Jimmy Butler strikes fear in my heart.
I mean, it's multiple things, but my
So he
thing
can
is
turn
like,
it on, and he is going full motor all the time.
I can't say
that
Jimmy
about
Butler
everybody.
doesn't affect the game, because he does. Like,
for sure.
But like, if you look at somebody like LeBron, Jokic, Giannis, Steph, like, or KD, those players are on another level, and those are like box office stars. Like Jimmy Butler, like you said, like, are you going to see Jimmy Butler? And I think if you're a superstar on that level, Jokic kind of forced his way into that point. Like I think like this year, like everybody's gonna want to see that, because what he's done historically is like, how could you not want to see history?
Right. I do think that changes at a point, right? And I think when I say that with Jimmy Butler is when I'm talking, who I'm talking is probably not us. We are the basketball junkies, but the casual is a casual fan really dying to go and say Jimmy Butler's in town. When Steph Curry's in town, people are coming to see him. Giannis is in town. People are coming to see that guy play, because you don't know, he might put up a 50-piece that night. Not that Jimmy Butler can't do that, and I loved what you said. Elite level, we got to have tiers. I think there's something, he's elite, but he's not superstar status. He's not box office, to take another term that you put up there too. He's not box office.
At any point in every year, there should only be like 4 to 6 guys that you are like, they're superstars, because they can't, like, if you have 10 guys that are superstars, it's a little washed. It should only be the elite of the elite. The top 5, 6 players are superstars. Everyone else, stars, all stars, very, very, very good, but not superstars. And Jimmy Butler's not that. He's still a very good player, but he's not a superstar.
Jimmy Butler is dating Shakira, so shout out to him.
That makes him a superstar. That makes him
Yeah, it does.
The game day release our power rankings, and you know, this is not. We're not going at you, because you guys do an amazing job over there. I just want to say that, but we do have some. I don't want to say issues, but like
I got an issue.
We do.
you got an issue. Well, I don't have an issue because I like my
Not
job.
an issue.
But what stood out to me is Golden State Warriors at the number 2 spot. But before we go off on that, I'm gonna let you cook.
So I'm picking up my sword and coming back to defend the New Orleans Pelicans, baby. This team, before they got hurt, were on pace for 54 wins this year. That would have made them the number 1 team in the West. They were the number 1 team in the West 2 months into the season. You know, just because I feel like a lot of teams here, I'll pull it up. The Clippers are 2 above them, and you can make similar cases that these teams can win a lot. They have a bit of a hot take to say the Pelicans are championship level ceiling, but I think that they could. I think that they can make a run. But the Clippers, with the injuries thing, they're older, so it checks out. The Pelicans, they are an incredibly young team. Like, we talk about Zion all the time. He's missed a lot of games. He's been hurt. Guess what? Joel Embiid missed more games in his first 4 years than Zion did, and Joel Embiid just won MVP. I think with a healthy Zion, with a healthy BI, you got Herb Jones, young guy, one of the best defenders in the league, Valanciunas, one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. We just learned how important rebounding is watching the Nuggets go all the way this year. We got Trey Murphy shooting the lights out, Larry Nance jumping out the gym. That is a fucking team. And I think if they're healthy, they're ranked 17th in here. They deserve to be in the top half.
It sounds good. You know what the New Orleans Pelicans remind me of? An NBA 2K team. Like, they're really
like
good
2K.
in the game. When they're fun. They're fun to watch and play with. But, like, are they really good at
And I forgot
damage?
CJ.
Huh?
And I forgot CJ.
You didn't even mention
the
CJ.
fact that I forgot CJ tells you how deep they are.
I'm with Colin on this, because when I looked at the list, that beside the Warriors being at number 2, which is way too high, I have an issue with that. But one of the things that jumped out to me was the Pelicans, because I think we're devaluing how good they were when they were healthy. Now, here's the thing. This is what makes them the 2K team, where I can rock with you on this. The health matters.
Yes.
Let's see if Zion is healthy, if B.I. is healthy. But we saw when they were healthy how good they were. We saw this.
It was crazy.
The other team on this list that I had a problem with being too low, the Memphis Grizzlies. I understand everything going on around Ja, all of that. There's some questions with that. But I thought that, look, we've seen what this team can be when they're healthy. So I think it's more about when they come back. That team is still strong. A lot of their pieces in place. I think Marcus Smart will have a huge impact on that team and their culture, because he's just going to be better than Dylan Brooks, who will be way too streaky. But I think he's going to have an impact, and I think the Grizzlies at 11, I think they should be a little bit higher. And come on, guys, you got to bring the Warriors down there. We got them at 2.
Yeah, I think
Come on.
I said this once, and I'm going to say it again. The Warriors championship run is over. And I think
it's a wrap.
I think it's a wrap, man. And why I think about it, because like I've been going back and forth with this Chris Paul trade. Like, is it good? Is it bad? And I know it helps Steph Curry, but they traded away Jordan Poole that does everything that's like the kryptonite to me to LeBron James, right? That shooting.
Interesting take.
No,
This
it
is
is
interesting.
because when you look at Jordan
Poole,
Poole, like how he plays, he shoots that three that's like you can't really guard it, right? It's just that fucking from deep. And I think he's a high, like he shoots that three that Steph Curry does. When he's hot, he's hot. So when you add that type of piece to the Golden State Warriors and then you take it away, I think that takes away from what they do best. Chris Paul is not that type of player, right?
Ooh,
He's a facilitator. I get that. But when you take away that deep threat from three, I think that works in advantage of a team like the Lakers, right? Because they got the size, right? And that was their problem last year. So you got smaller on top of that. And now you don't even have that constant threat. Now, I think it's more pressure on Steph Curry to be a more efficient shooter because at this point, you just lost a guy that can do what he does when he's hot. He's inconsistent,
you go.
but when
Yes.
he's hot, but that
So
type of shit
what you're
matters.
saying is it's better for the Warriors to win the Warriors way with like the hot shooting and like deep threes rather than because they went for a little more balance now. They're doing something they haven't done, getting a facilitator.
My last point I'll make on that, when you look at the Warriors, right, a lot of times when Curry isn't hot or Klay isn't hot, there's always that player that comes out of nowhere and you're like, what the fuck? We got to worry about him too. And he's benefiting of the fact that you're worried about like Curry and Klay. And now Jordan Poole was one of those players. Obviously, he didn't have that great of a year, but what he can do, he's still a threat from three. So like once you don't have that, I think that's like Chris Paul at this point. I think the Warriors are done.
I do think the run is over, but I do think the move for Chris Paul, and I thought a lot about this trade. I'm not sure how I feel about it, right? But Chris Paul helps stabilize that team's second unit, which Jordan Poole cannot do. Why? Because he turns the ball over too damn much. That was a huge problem for Jordan Poole with me. Sure, you're right. He's got the threat from deep, but we know how inconsistent he can be. He was bad. I think the other thing is the people stuff matters too, right? We knew once Draymond punched him in the face, they were not going to be able to recover from that.
Can I stop you right there?
Yes, you can.
They traded a guy that Draymond punched in the face for another guy that Draymond hates.
But he hasn't punched him in the face yet. Though.
He hasn't, but he might. He didn't even-
That's a key
that
word.
we know of.
that we know of. Or maybe he doesn't hate him as much. These are the levels you got to deal with Draymond.
No, he's just gonna get elbowed, not punched.
He might
in the
get
face.
elbowed. He might shove him a little bit. Draymond's going to be Draymond. I don't think he's going to punch Chris Paul in the face because he might not like him all the way, but he respects
You got
him.
odds on
once
that?
Once he
we can
punched
figure that out.
Jordan Poole in the face, he did not respect that man anymore. I don't think they should be number 2 in this rankings. I think we should respect their championship pedigree, but I do think the run is over for them. Number 2, come on, guys. Come on. Number 2, really?
That window for them is definitely closed. Like I just don't see them getting back to even a Western Conference Finals, maybe round 2, but I don't see. I guess it's Steph Curry and all that, but like Chris Paul, we've seen in recent years the inconsistency of his injuries, of just his age. You see his age now, and then him running that second unit. I think there's going to be turmoil in the beginning of the season where he wants to be that first unit. He wants to be that star player again. He's just going to have to take the backseat role. Once he does that, then things will start cooking. But I just don't see them getting past. The West is deep. The West is really, really deep. Like I was looking at a lot of these teams, like Utah Jazz. Like I'm not saying they're better. They're definitely not better than the Warriors. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But I'm saying like that's how deep the West is. Like the Utah Jazz could be a playoff team. They could very much be. How do you not say they can't be a playoff team?
Worry about the Utah
they're not
Jazz.
good,
I'm not
Come
worried
on, what we
about
doing?
it, but I'm just saying that's how deep the West is that the Utah Jazz could make the playoffs.
I mean,
it's a tough conference.
Winning
now.
a championship's also like a hard fucking thing to do.
Yeah.
It's like it's
We don't say that enough, but yes, you're right.
It's like
Yeah.
you know, it's not like crazy to say they're not going to win at all. They could be still like a fantastic team and not win at all. So I mean,
It's less about Chris Paul for me. It's more about their supporting cast and role players. They tried that whole thing of bridging the 2 timelines, right? And trying to be like, can we win with the old guard and bring in the new? And that didn't work. We saw them trade off Wiseman. All right, now it's kind of like Kuminga and Moody. Sorry, I was about to mess up their name. Kuminga and Moody. Those guys have to step up. If they are really going to be good, it's going to be on those guys stepping up to take them to the next level. They need those guys to step up.
But what Kuminga thing is weird to me because of the minutes, right? I don't know if they like Kuminga or not. Like everybody, like the fans like him,
Right.
but like does Steve Kerr like him?
I don't know, or is he not doing enough in practice to get burned on the court? I don't know.
size. That's why they lost to the Lakers.
And we see that with the Warriors. We saw it all last season. Sometimes with Jordan Poole, where he would just sit, and Warriors fans are like, and NBA fans are like, "Why is he sitting for so long?" Like, Jordan
Well,
Poole
we know
should
why
be-
he was sitting.
I understand,
Sure,
but like when the Warriors are down a lot, like when the Warriors are struggling, like why not just throw Jordan Poole out there? Like he's a young guy, he deserves these minutes. Same thing with Kuminga. Like there are certain reasons, like Steve Kerr has his reasonings, and I trust his reasoning because yes, it's Steve
He
Kerr.
didn't trust him. He didn't
But
trust him.
he just didn't trust certain players. I don't think he just trusts Kuminga,
Well,
but
Poole?
sometimes you just got to let these young guys run and just let them rip and see what happens.
I think he didn't trust Poole when he kept turning over the ball.
I mean,
In
yeah,
the
that's
playoffs.
all.
I think that's when he lost his trust.
Is Zion on the hot seat?
Hell yeah, he's on the hot seat. Okay, well, he had a hot summer. He was on the hot seat for a lot of
I
other
was very
things.
hot
okay?
summer.
A lot of other things. But listen, in all seriousness, with Zion, right, it comes down to the health situation. How focused are you going to be on basketball? Because I think that's been questioned a lot with him too. There's been a lot around his camp, the people around him. How focused and locked in are you going to be in terms of showing up? Obviously, there's certain things you can't control, and we heard him talk about his weight this summer and all this other stuff. But look, he's got to get in better shape. When this guy plays, his numbers are incredible. But of course, there's a lot of pressure on him because, like Colin said, there's so much riding on him in terms of how good the Pelicans can be this season. His health is the main factor to what there's going to be there. For me, he's at the top of the list in terms of pressure. Also, Karl Anthony Towns for some people, who I've been out on.
I've been
out on Karl Anthony
I
Towns.
don't believe him.
But I don't believe in him. And we don't need more people in terms of him. But I think there's going to be pressure on him because of what the Timberwolves gave up to get Rudy Gobert and put that team together. So now it's like, Cat, you're saying you're this guy. You're always chirping, talking about I'm the greatest shooting big man of all time, whatever that means. And now it's like, you got to show us. I don't believe he will, but there's pressure on him to show it.
Yeah, Cat's on the hot seat too. I think he has to improve, like as a leader. That's what I think he needs to do. Like I think that's the most important thing. He says he talks a lot, but he doesn't actually show that. And all this, like he talks about winning the play-in and like how that was a big stride for him. I don't fucking know where he got that. But back to Zion. I think Zion, my thing about Zion is that his weight, because that is concerning, but also the off the court stuff now, right? When you put all that together, that ignites a fire where it's just like at this point we want the Pelicans to be good. They have a good squad. They have a good roster. So it's kind of like now or never. So if you're not on the court this season, I think we have to mark them over as a bust.
I'm not going to say that.
So. You know what?
Going
Because
to
It's too early.
I agree.
Too
If Zion is not healthy this season,
Zion
he's a
on the
bust.
Pelicans. Zion on the Pelicans, you could call that a bust if maybe they want to move off him, but they trade him, there are going to be teams ringing
I'm
the
not saying
phone
that
off the
now,
hook
but
trying to
I'm just
sign
saying,
him.
like,
and then if
this-
it works out there, calling him you can't. You know,
I
he's
can't
the
call him
potential.
bust because it hasn't been a successful run in his career, right?
You don't think he
Yeah,
can go
bust-
somewhere
bust it.
else and figure it
I'm
out?
not saying that he can't, but I'm just saying if
It's
he's
all in his
injured
hands.
again. Like we talk about injuries, right? Injuries are like that. That's the plague. I think his skill level is up there. It's not about his
But
skill.
if you get hurt all the time, does that make you a bust?
Yes,
Yes.
Greg Oden.
Yeah, Greg Oden.
Or
Greg Oden.
is it just an unfortunate situation?
It's both.
It's
I
a
think
bust.
It's both.
Like
It's just-
He's
me,
right, he's
to me,
right, it
like
is
Greg
both.
Oden. Don't get me wrong. Like I think he's talented. I think he would have been a good player.
Right.
But
He would've
like
been
his
incredible.
health made him a bust, and I don't think anybody doesn't say that Greg Oden's not a bust. And I think he's a bust.
He could go somewhere and be healthy. Like I just think it's too early. Like we got to let a guy's career
Bust
play
gets
out
traded all
before we
the
call
time.
him a
Bust gets
bust.
traded all the time. Kwame Brown. I completely agree with the Zion. For years, I've been saying, with a guy that athletic,
Yeah.
you can't be that weight. Because, he
I've
could
been
jump
saying
out the
that.
gym,
Yeah.
but your knees are going to explode. Like, you are going to get hurt. He could be that weight, just be less athletic. But if you're that athletic where he's jumping out of the gym, yamming it every single day, you got to get skinnier. You got to put the gumbo down, and you got to get your weight down. And then that kind of Zion is
Let me
powerful.
ask you this, though, right? And this kind of goes to what you were saying, too, right? If it's not just about injury, what if he doesn't show the mental fortitude to actually get in better shape? Does that make him a bust, too?
Yes.
If we don't see him put in the work
Jamarcus Russell.
to... That's actually...
We're not that-
No, I actually like that comp.
We're
That's
not
a very
we're not
good
football
comp,
podcast.
especially
We're
when you
not a football
consider the
show.
height.
No, but I
too.
like that comp. I
Yeah.
like that comp, though, even though it's a football comp. I actually like that, right?
didn't
Because
care.
if you don't put in it's not just about your talent, and injuries are sometimes a result of bad luck, right?
yeah.
And then I think there's different kinds of busts. You got injury busts. You got guys who just don't put it together on the court or never play up to their talent. And then some of that also needs to go on teams and front office evaluators for putting a guy that high, like a Kwame Brown, right? Who maybe should have never been put that high. And then there's the other part I'm talking about where it's that you have all the talent, you've got the skill set, we've seen it in small doses, but then you're not doing the extra work, right, to be a high-level athlete. And does that make you a bust? You're saying, yes, that makes you a bust, too.
Like you hear it all the time growing. Like we heard it all growing up. Hard work beats talent, beats natural talent.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't
If you
work
bust your
hard.
ass out there, you will get the time, you will get the minutes over the guys that are just talented. Zion will end up being Jamarcus Russell, and he just cares about being a hot boy out there, and that's fine too.
But Zion did say on Gilbert Arenas' podcast that it is hard for him, and like being young and having that type of money, that's a struggle for a lot of players, right? You get introduced with a lot of money, you're young, you don't really have the guidance, but I think he's in a place now where he's learned and he's been through a lot where he could turn it around. But my thing is, this is the year where
I do think it's a now or never year.
Now or never.
I don't disagree.
Well, that's
with
the
you
good
on
thing
that
too. Is it's all in his hands. Like I'm not gonna play doctor and like I don't know like what went on with like his foot and stuff, but like, dude, just like hit the gym, brother. Like,
and it's to that now or never point. It is now or never for him, right? Because this is a very crossroads moment for Zion. If he doesn't get it done, then I think you're gonna start to hear some of the talks about should he move, should he trade, is it a change of scenery? I'm like you. I could see him going someplace else and still actually end up playing really well.
yeah.
But if it's going to happen in New Orleans, it's now or never.
Who do you think's under more pressure, Zion or Cat?
Zion.
100%.
Because I think more people are where we are in that we know what Cat is. If you're still a believer in Cat, I guess I get it. You're still
I'm a big
holding
believer
on.
in his game, but the stuff that you talk about, like the mentality, like I think he's.
When you say you're a big believer in his game, what do you mean?
I love shooting bigs. I love what that does
What
for
do
your
you- what do
offense.
you-
the best shooting big of all time.
Do you think he's the best player on the championship team?
Oh hell no.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I just mean that I love guys who can stretch the floor.
But my thing is,
future of the NBA offense.
with Cat, like I agree because I think he's a talented player, but he's just not that guy, right?
Agreed.
When you think about leaders and being the best player on the team, he's just not one of them. And like everybody's put all like their stock into Cat, like oh Cat's great, and I'm like, eh.
But who do you guys think has more pressure? You brought up Cat or Zion. Is it Zion or Ja? Considering both of them had some turbulent off seasons, a lot going on off the court.
Ja's been better.
think
Ja's played more.
Right.
I think like Ja's never been on. Zion hasn't played bad, but you know, Ja's just been on the court more. It's all in Ja's hands.
I
him
know,
to fix
yeah.
it. I'm
Literally.
fumbling to that, but yeah,
Literally.
yeah, literally.
I still think it's Zion. When he's on the court, I'm not worried about him getting hurt. I'm not worried about his weight at all. I'm not worried about his mentality, like on the court in the game. Like he knows he's one of the best players in the league. He knows that he could lead this team, and he is the type of guy that he could be the best player on a championship team. But Zion, it's the mix of on the court stuff and off the court stuff that worries me. With Ja, you know, they say it's a gun lighter, whatever.
Ja just got to stay off Instagram
Yeah.
Live, bro.
That's
That's
it.
just what he
Word.
is.
That's
Like all he has to do,
That's
bro.
all.
And then he needs some better
Give
friends.
him a flip phone.
Yeah,
Like, that's it.
Motorola. Sign him
He needs
up.
that LeBron CIA. You know what I mean? Like he needs that
Zero
protection.
dark all the time.
all the time.
Trey Young, is he a top 5 point guard?
I think Trae Young is one of the most misunderstood players in the league.
Why
Just
do you
because
think Trae Young is missing?
Because, and it's for good reasons. Everyone talks about the shooting, and when he was at Oklahoma, it was, oh, he's the next Steph Curry. His numbers this year went down from the field and from three.
Yep.
Still very talented shooter. He can hit from fucking anywhere. But he's led the league in total assists the last 2 years. He's put up like historic pick and roll numbers. I think he's he's a top 3 offensive point guard with how he's able to initiate the offense, and he is solely responsible for Atlanta's offense.
Ding there.
Like-
Whatever you said there. Top 3 offensive. Why he's not a top 5?
Oh, he's
guard
one
to
of the
me?
worst defensive point guards in the
Terrible
league.
on defense.
Yeah,
And
yeah. He's
all
a
the
cone.
teams will hunt him in the playoffs. Is he a top 5 point guard? Overall, I'm taking Ja over him.
Okay.
I'm taking Steph
Same.
over him.
Okay, yes.
I'm taking Luka over him.
I hate the Luka point guard thing.
I know where you're going
He's
because you're
so,
like
he can
but
play
he plays the
fucking anywhere.
point. But he
You're
plays
right,
the
you're
point, right?
you're
You get-
For this exercise, it's annoying.
European Braun, baby.
You know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm letting my Knicks fans be happy. I'm taking Jalen Brunson over Trae Young. No. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
You know what?
See,
It's
the
not-
producers just got excited here.
I'm blasphemous, but
He can get the Jalen's on his way there.
Yeah.
But is he better than Trey Young now?
Yeah,
I
I mean, we had this conversation.
You
with
had this conversation?
ranking guy,
Okay.
not
Yeah.
this exact
Okay.
one, but for me, Trey's been a top. I'm not even going to stick a number on it, but he's been a top point guard for probably 2-3 years now. You could really only make that argument for Jalen this past year.
That's fair.
So it's hard for me to give him that nod just
Who
yet.
do you trust more in the playoffs right now?
Trey.
Trey,
Into an Eastern
you know what he did.
Conference.
You know what he did.
I'll
You
take
know what he
Jalen-
did
I'll
to the
take Jalen
Knicks.
Brunson.
You know what he did to the Knicks.
That was with Jalen Brunson on that team.
I'm just saying.
I'd love to see him do it now.
I mean, Trey Young has done something because he beat the Knicks and Philly in the playoffs, right?
no, it's not hard to beat Philly.
But he's
Ben
done it
Simmons
though.
doesn't shoot.
That's what I'm saying though.
Don't
He's
get
done
me
it.
started.
He has something on his belt to like you look at. You like
He even gave the Bucks some trouble.
He did. And what I do want to say to Colin's point that I think Colin made a very good point about that gets underrated, and he's misunderstood in this part, I will say about Trae Young, although I don't like the defense. The passing. People underrate his passing brilliance.
So good.
He's a fantastic passer. He is arguably a top 2 or 3 passer in the league right now. If you want to say not the best, he's fantastic about that. I think people marvel at his shooting. I think he unfairly got comped to Steph Curry a lot early in his career. That's where I'm going to defend Trae. However, I do think Trae has got some pressure on him too, right? There's been a lot of change in Atlanta. New coach. John Collins is out of there finally.
Thank God for his sake.
What's he going to do, and how good can Atlanta could be? Do you think Trae's the best player on the championship team?
No,
I say no.
I think I firmly believe you have to be a two-way player to be the best player in a championship team.
Okay, so I can rock.
Jokic played just good enough
defense to be there.
Here's the problem with Trae. The problem with Trae Young is, one, he got compared to Steph Curry when coming out of college, so you have to live up to that hype.
Yep.
Two, you got swapped for Luka, so you're always going to live in that fucking
the
shadow.
only player in that draft who's better.
And three,
than him.
he has a weird voice, so like people hate him for
And
that.
hair.
But like if you look at the numbers, right? Steph Curry to me number 1 point guard in the league, right? He's averaged 29 points per game and he had 6 assists. All right, Trae Young didn't have the greatest shooting year, but he averaged 26 points per game. But he had 10 assists. He averaged that. And when we talk about point guard, I think we forget so much how important assist is. You know what I'm saying? So if you getting 10 assists a game, that's pretty great. That's so I think that's why. But I think like people hate Trae Young so much, and he's only 165 pounds soaking wet. I think that doesn't work in your favor as like people looking at you as like one of them guys.
I don't think there's a lot of pressure on Trae Young this year. I think because of the new coaching the new coach, and they got rid of John Collins again. Thank God. And moving the pieces moving around. They just re-signed DeJounte Murray. I think there's a lot less pressure on Trae Young because of everyone around him, and I think that will elevate his game, and I think he's gonna have another great year.
I think he's gonna have a bounce back.
I don't know if the Hawks. I
too.
don't think people expect the Hawks to do well, and that's why the pressure's off of Trae. Because now it's just Trae, like, all right, let me just prove to you wrong that I think the Hawks are gonna be a good team. I don't know if the Hawks will be. They might be a middling team. Their ceiling for me is like 7-6 seed, but
I can see that.
I think there's
wouldn't
more
be
pressure
surprised
on
if they're bad.
Yeah, I think there's more pressure on the Hawks organization, and
See, I agree.
down
Versus
from that,
Trae.
guy like DeAndre Hunter, like they chose him over Cam Reddish, like at the 3. And DeAndre Hunter's been great in spurts, but I feel like there's this understanding, and like the Hawks tried to swing big and trade for DeJounte. I'm not ready to say that experiment is over, but you can see them. They're trying to surround Trae with more stars and more help, and it clearly didn't work last year. I think there's a reason that there were rumors about Trae asking out.
Man. Damian Lillard came out and said that he would only go to the Miami Heat, right? And his agent came out and said that as well. Do you think that the player empowerment in the NBA has gone too far?
Nah, this is the game, right? This is what it is. Players are going to use whatever leverage they have. Teams are going to use whatever leverage they have. And Damian's using his agent. Now, I think what's interesting about this discussion, right, and where you're asking about whether it's gone too far is, okay, well, is Portland going to want to do right by him because he's been arguably the greatest Blazer in the history of the franchise? Are they going to want to do right by him? How far does this drag out? And I think that's what you kind of mean when it goes too far too, right? It's just how long is this going to go on?
So the NBA, they came out and they made a statement, and they was like, if you say anything like this again, and this is a warning to all players, you will be fined for this. And maybe the NBA is realizing that the players have had too much power for too long, and it's time to take back that power because it's a players' league, right? Yeah. And you look at like AD when he was in trade talks and Boston was thinking about
I'm not going to Boston.
He was like, I'm not going to resign if you do get me. So it's just like that was one of the reasons why Boston didn't go out and get AD. So if players can't do that now, maybe the NBA is looking at it like, hold up. Now we need to rethink everything. And is it right for the NBA to sit there and say, like, all right, we need to get our players back in check?
I mean,
Absolutely.
It's fine for you to say, yeah, like, you can trade for me, but I'm a free agent next summer. I don't know if I'm going to re-sign. I don't really like the city, blah, blah, blah. That's cool. It's a totally different thing to say, do not trade for me, because if you do, I'm not playing there. You're not fulfilling your contract that you signed.
Defining, okay, how much are you going to fine these guys? Because we got to look at the players that are doing this. We're talking about the elite of the elite, either superstars or paid like a superstar, that is going to do this. So how much are you going to find a Damian Lillard or somebody that's going to be enough for them to say, I'm not going to say this, right? Like, what's that amount going to be that's actually going to be? Because if you're going to tell me $100,000, Damian Lillard is laughing at that. Whatever, I'll say this, and I have my agent say this anytime.
Or you're not allowed to publicly request a trade. You get fined for that. But players still do it all the time because they don't give a shit. So you're absolutely right.
But going through the agent is that move that players are always going
But
to
his
do.
agent was like, wait, hold on. I didn't say that shit. So maybe the money is too much, but they was like, I don't want to lose this.
But it's like James Harden said, basically said, I only want to go to the Clippers. And nothing, no peep from the NBA. But all of a sudden, Damian Lillard's like, I only want to play for the Miami Heat. Now the league's like, now hold up.
I don't think Harden's agent was calling other teams saying, do not play for my guy. Do not trade for my guy.
But say, like, just don't trade for him. He's not going to play. That's fine. You know what? Like, we don't like it's a players' league. We go watch basketball for these players.
You're right.
So they should have all the power. They have all the power.
They do.
They're the asset.
It's not like Aaron Goodwin's not calling these teams and saying that. Yeah. Of course he's doing that. The game is the game, right? Like, this is what he's doing. It's a players' league. I think we need to. This is almost like tampering, where we want to act like it's this big deal that it's not, right? Like, we know tampering goes on.
Yes.
You can't, like, the NBA looks, I think where the NBA looks hypocritical is you look away at sometimes, you love the player empowerment, you love all this conversation in the offseason. What are we doing? We're talking about this.
Yeah.
What are people going to watch the show? Because we're talking about this. The NBA loves that. So you can't act like you love it sometime and then act like you don't. Like, it's hypocritical.
NBA free agency hits, and then guys, like, it's like 6 o'clock NBA free agency, 6:01, like five guys sign.
Five guys sign.
And the NBA's like, yeah, that makes sense.
So much fun.
They cut the deal in 30 seconds. Sure, that's fine. Like, come on. Like, this stuff happens all the time. Like, I think it's like Damian Lillard, like, he gets traded to another team and he's not going to play. That's bad for the league. He wants to play for Miami. Just let Portland and Miami.
So we shouldn't have signed that extension if you really want to play for Miami.
That's on him.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
He's an idiot for
and
doing
it's
that.
also
He's an idiot
it's
for
not
doing
the
that.
Trailblazers. You know, their GM. He has to get a good deal out of this. You know, if he trades
100%.
Damian Lillard because he wants to go to Miami and doesn't get a good return, guess what? He's fired in 2 years.
Of course.
That's not fair.
Like,
So he's got to get it right.
He's got to do his job. Yeah.
Yeah. Should the Trailblazers do right by him? Yes. Should the Trailblazers also do right by their organization? Absolutely. Don't trade Damian Lillard just because he's your guy and he wants to leave and you want to do right by him. Trade him if you get a good deal. But, like, if you get a good deal from the Miami Heat and you get maybe a slightly better deal from a different team, trade him to the Miami Heat if the deal is minimal difference. You know what I mean? But if it's like obviously if it's a huge difference, trade him to the team that you're going to get a better return.
I'm just not mad at either side doing what's best for them.
Yeah.
I just understand it. Like, it is what it is.
Of course.
Both sides are going to want to do what's best for them, and that's business. That's
Right.
okay.
And, like, that agent, like, people are saying, like, oh, like, and I just said, like, yeah, like, technically, yeah, from the NBA side, you're like, yeah, you're breaking rules. But if you're an agent, don't you want to have it as like a pitch if you're trying to sign a player? I will break the fucking rules to get you where you want to go. I don't blame it at all for doing that. That's smart as fuck.
Yeah, because you know what? If Dame gets to Miami, which is where he wants to go, where Aaron Goodwin wants him to go, other players that want to sign with Aaron Goodwin are going to be like, hey, if I'm a star, that guy's going to get me where I want to go.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
that's always going to be attractive.
Yeah. It's never personal, just business.
Just business.
Ty Lue said that nobody could beat the 2001 Lakers. They were just unstoppable. Who do you think is the best team of all time?
You got to think about those, 97, 98 Bulls. You got to think about that. You got to think about the 2017 Warriors, actually, that version.
Yeah,
that's a
that's
version
where
that's
I'm
better.
on.
I'm going to go with the 2017 Warriors. I think they could definitely beat the Lakers. You know, we got to stop. And I saw you guys talk about this before with Paul Pierce, because he just sounds like an old head that's angry. And I like Paul Pierce. Everybody's got to hold on to their teams and their eras. And it's like, man, the game evolves.
Thank
And
you.
sometimes, And sometimes, basketball players get better. And you can sit here and say, well, who's going to have an answer for Shaq on any of the teams I just mentioned? And that's a fair point. That's fair.
That's true.
Right? But I could also say, who's guarding Steph? Or who's going to be able to handle Clay and all the shooting that they have? That Lakers team never saw anything like that. Like,
That's true.
They
They
never
were
faced
slow,
anything like that.
too. That was
now,
a
would I
slow
like to
team.
Yeah, it was a slow team in terms of pace. Would I love to watch that game?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I would be
I'd love
sick.
to watch that game. You know what I'm putting? If I said, let's say I took one of the teams I said 2017 Warriors. I think the 2017 Warriors are beating the 2001 Lakers.
I agree.
I think if you simulate a 7-game series 100 times, I don't think I'm not going to say something ridiculous like 95 of the times they're going to win. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I might put it at like 65 to 70%. I would go to give to the
Shaq will
Warriors.
probably go 30-20.
for the debate of
they'll
the show,
give him that.
Yeah.
I really want to say the Lakers, but I kind of just agree.
Why don't you just say for the Laker fan and you want to say the
Nah,
Lakers?
not even. Just like
Well, LeBron wasn't there yet.
because I want to debate, but it's just like
okay.
Shaq was just fucking unreal. Like,
He was.
Yeah,
and it's just like
Shaq, yeah.
when you look at Steph, you're like, how do you stop that? But it's just like if you can defensively figure something out, right, and then slow down Steph, right, you're not gonna stop him, but slow him down. Like, and some of those nights he's gonna have bad nights. Is it possible that the Lakers could win that game? Because like I don't care
it's
what you
possible.
say, there will be no fucking answer for Shaq.
Okay? So I'm just real quick off the top. Starting lineup for that team, the Lakers team.
Ass.
Derek Fisher, Kobe Bryant. Who's playing the 3 for that 0-1 team?
I think it was like Rick Fox or something.
Rick Fox.
Fox.
And the 4.
Oh,
Robert Horry starting at the 4,
Horace Grant.
or Horace Grant on that 0-1 team, and then Shaq.
Horace Grant started 77 games. Yeah.
Horace Grant started
74.
77 games for them.
Yeah. No spacing on that team. It's going to be slower. I'm with the modern game and the speed of it and the shooting, and the Warriors just embody that. That Warriors team embodies that so well.
What I think you're looking at, I just want to play devil's advocate for you for a second. I think what you're looking at is, all right, if they play at their pace, you got Derek Fisher, Kobe, giving it to Shaq in the post. Draymond Green has no answer for that, or whoever who the Warriors starting the center in 2017 during that run.
It was.
Kayvon Looney, baby.
Was it Looney?
Was it
I don't know.
No, because I think they had Iggy too in that lineup.
The great Zaza
Zaza
Pachulia.
Pachulia.
Zaza, Jesus.
It doesn't matter. Like
barbecue chicken alert! Barbecue chicken alert!
Right. This is Shaq at
my
his
goodness.
peak.
Yeah,
The peak of his peak.
yeah.
And I get that. And you get
He
him in
probably
foul
averaged
trouble.
40 points.
That's the thing.
Foul trouble.
Getting
Yes.
the other team in
That's-
foul trouble.
I figured that's where you were going with that, and I think that's a fair thing. I can also say Steph Curry's getting Derek Fisher in foul trouble.
Steph Curry's going to have Derek Fisher needing an oxygen mask like at halftime of that game with him running around.
Hear me out.
Here we go.
2013 Miami Heat. When they won the
No,
finals.
no.
That LeBron.
Wait, they could be the 2001 team.
Yeah.
Lakers.
Yeah.
I think that's a very
That's
good
a good
series.
Because
hypothetical.
here's the
That's a
thing.
good
Very
hypothetical.
fascinating.
LeBron James, the best LeBron James we ever got was Miami Heat LeBron. No
I disagree
question.
with that.
Where
Cleveland, second stint.
Oh,
I low-key agree with that. I low-key agree with that.
I'm with Gio on this. I think
LeBron with the
2012,
Miami
2013 is
Heat.
the best LeBron we saw.
Nah,
He was-
it's not.
that Miami
It's
Heat
not.
era was the greatest LeBron we've ever seen. You want to talk about striking fear into an opponent's
I
heart?
agree.
Was LeBron?
As a LeBron-
we had this man updating other players' Wikipedia pages saying they died after he dunked on them. What are we talking about?
When we look at pure skill and like game, like even when he won in the bubble, he was just like he's a totally different player and he knows more. He knows more than he ever did when he was on that team. I think when you look at athleticism, of course, when you look at like just that peak, but when you look at like actual skill set and like learning how to play the game from like inside and out and just like
So you think 2016, 2015, 2016, that was
That's the
2015,
best LeBron we
2018.
ever
I
seen.
think so, yeah.
I'll give you that.
He was
But
I think
taking more high percentage shots. I just like that version.
He was
better.
asked to do more in those teams. I think LeBron was a better defensive player. I would say maybe that speaks to the athleticism
Yeah.
that we saw probably
Definitely does,
in,
yeah.
in those that 2012 to 2014
yeah,
ish
that-
run.
I agree with that.
I do hear what you're saying. His feel for the game was better. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And in terms
Passing
of
too.
the passing, I mean, sometimes his performances in the finals in 2016 and 2017, 2016 against Lillard, but 2017 is underrated how good he was in those finals.
I also don't think with the Heat he needed to have the game that he has now with the Heat because you had a lot more like guys around him that understood the game better than where he was at now. Like you had prime Chris Bosh, prime Dwayne Wade. I mean, Mario Chalmers was running the point, and Mario Chalmers is not like the superstar guy, but he was a very good point guard. Ray Allen's coming off the bench for that team. He's
have
not going to
Battier.
take care of him. A Birdman off the bench, too, is going to give Shaq a little bit of problems. He's not going to completely take care of him. But
I like
he'll
this
deal with
series.
them.
I like that series though. I like that.
tough.
I like that matchup. That's a good.
A
matchup.
younger
You lost me
UD,
at Birdman
younger
giving
UD,
Shaq a little bit of problems.
a younger UD. Come
UD's
on.
not in this
Come on.
conversation.
Miami Heat's leading rebounder.
I like that 2012.
That would be a fun one. That would be a
against
fun
the
And
one.
they won 66 games that regular season. That was a really good Miami Heat team.
But I don't know what they do when Shaq gets people in foul trouble.
Shit,
That is,
yeah.
That's a fair point, man. It's a fair point. This is why it makes these conversations so intriguing.
Just throw Joel Anthony at him. All right. Battle of the eras, right? Where we take NBA All Stars, right?
Yep.
First
All
team,
NBA.
All NBA first team
All
players
NBA first team
from
players.
different eras.
Different eras. Okay.
So we got the 2005, and then we have the 2022 All NBA team. 2005, we have Tim Duncan, Dirk, Shaq, AI, Nash. 2022, we have Giannis, Jason Tatum, Jokic, DBook, and Luka. Point guard, we're going Luka, right? At point guard or Nash? Steve Nash or Luka Doncic
I'm
at point
taking
guard?
Luka Doncic.
I'm taking Luka.
Taking Steve Nash.
Why?
He won the MVP that year, right? Steve Nash. Steve
I
Nash.
don't know that.
You want to talk about a guy who sees the game differently? Steve Nash, yes, maybe his points weren't the greatest, but the reason why he won the MVP that year, and it should have gone to different players that people were saying, was because he made his team one of the best scoring teams in the NBA that year. He was the ultimate facilitator, and he's good defensively.
You want to hear my hot take?
He was
He's
not a
decent
he was
defender.
not a good
take?
defender,
Not a
bro.
good defender.
He was not a good defender.
I feel like, what's your hot take?
Neither was Iverson. That's why I'm
That's a
rocking. I
terrible-
think the 2022
Remember we was
team
talking
would be
about
the
football
2005
earlier?
Team.
Oh, here we
Yeah.
go.
Steve Nash is a system quarterback. You know, Mike D'Antoni elevated him, but like,
That's an interesting take.
That is an interesting take. I think Luke. So you're saying you think Luka's a better player?
yeah, Luka.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
all day.
agree.
More
We're on Luka.
complete.
All right, here's the question: Book or AI?
God damn, I hate these.
See this one right here. This right here. This is going to be one of these arguments was about how you feel about a player versus what player is actually better.
You're right.
People feel a way about AI because they love it.
I
love
hate
AI.
the Sixers, and I absolutely
I
adore
love
Allen
AI.
Iverson.
One of my favorite players of all time. He is not as good a player as Devin Booker. And I love AI. He revolutionized the crossover, everything for the culture, the hip hop style, bringing in all. I get it, but D-Book's a better player.
I'm with
sorry.
you.
Kendrick
He's
Lamar-
bigger too, and D-Book is a very, very underrated defender. He's got lateral
I
quickness.
agree.
He's got size.
Underrated playmaker too.
Yes, very.
Kendrick Lamar
Yeah,
once said,
I might slightly take Devin Booker over AI, but AI's handles, it's just something else.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
special.
What you going with a Kendrick Lamar quote? Which
"Yeah, I remember you was conflicted." That's what he was saying.
I was just playing Pimp a Butterfly today.
The demons of Lucy.
I get. I'm going AI. Fuck that.
Oh, okay. You got one person over there. He said he slightly take D-Book. Gio said he'd slightly take D-Book.
I could get persuaded to the AI.
I can't do it. I can't do it. If Book had a championship, then I'll side with Book. But I'm biased right now.
Rings
All right, all right. Jokic or Shaq? Shaq.
Shaq, yeah, 100%.
I gotta take Shaq. I gotta take Shaq.
Shaq's eating his lunch.
One on one.
Jokic or Shaq?
I'll say this though.
This is 2005 Shaq.
Yeah.
Yes. This is Miami Heat
Backcourt
Shaq.
I'm
overall
taking
though.
2022 Jokic over 2005
That's Heat
Shaq.
Shaq, right?
That's Heat Shaq.
That's
yeah.
Heat Shaq.
It's Miami Heat Shaq.
And that's what.
Oh, that is Miami Heat Shaq.
Hey,
So that's
Ooh.
what. That's
Still very
I'm
good in
switching
Miami.
sides. I'm switching
Stop it.
sides.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
switching
not
sides to
asking me
Jokic.
if I'm
Sorry
taking
about it.
for their career. I'm taking for the year. I'm taking
Yes.
2022 Jokic.
He was 22.
The numbers,
I'm with
the
you.
numbers
I'm
are
with
stupid.
you.
The numbers
I'm
are
with
stupid.
you.
2022 Jokic wasn't this year's Jokic, and I think this year's Jokic was much better than 2022 Jokic. And Miami
Both were
Heat
fantastic.
Shaq was sick, and this was before they won. This is before they won the championship too. This was the year. The
The
year
year
I think
before,
he got
the year he got there.
He got
not
there.
06.
Not 06. That's 05 Shaq. And I'm telling you, Shaq is going to give Jokic problems. Shaq's an incredible defender.
I was thinking
Shaq's
Lakers
just-
Shaq because we were just talking that.
Got
But
him.
no, I'm
Shaq's
taking
a
Jokic.
I'm
menace.
taking Jokic, fan.
Shaq is a menace.
I'll say, and the duo of fucking Duncan and Shaq, to bring it up to power forward, the spacing of those two is going to be horrendous against if you have Jokic on there, just alone. Giannis can't shoot for shit, but he's going
I'm
to.
still taking Shaq. I'm taking Shaq over Jokic.
I'm taking Jokic. I'm taking Jokic for
Taking
this. I'm
Jokic.
taking
The
20.
reason why I'm gonna go Jokic is because
Oh,
Shaq.
you got another Jokic.
Shaq said he was like, we were partying every day, and I don't know how we won the championship, so I've got to go Jokic. All right,
This is
Got
another
him
reason
for
why I
it.
should take Shaq. Are you kidding me?
Jason Tatum or Dirk?
This is Dirk.
I'm taking Tatum.
This is 05,
Sorry.
05 Dirk?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm taking Dirk. 05 Dirk. 05 Dirk was.
You say you're taking Tatum.
I'm taking Tatum. I just think he's quicker. I think he's going to run Dirk off.
so
the
you
floor.
rather have
I'm rolling with the
Jason
speed of
Tatum
this team.
over Dirk?
This year, yeah.
Oh, Colin. Please.
Positionally, I'm taking Dirk. I think I'm going to lean if you said more about which team would beat watching.
That's what I mean. We break down the positions. I look at the guys and I try to look at it from like a 5v5 standpoint instead of go position by position. Yeah. And I think the 2022 team is faster and has floor spacing. And I think the front court defense of the 2005 team is going to be horrendous. And that's where I draw it.
Listen, man.
He's like, we're not trying to do all that.
Yeah, you know what?
Sorry, we can keep going position by position.
NBA nerd nonsense.
You can nerd out with me, Colin. I'm with you.
I appreciate you.
I'll still take Duncan or Giannis.
Giannis.
Duncan.
Again, speed, athleticism. I'm rolling with Giannis. All time, like who's the better power forward? Duncan. And it's not even close. But to pull these guys out of each in Giannis in 2023 and Duncan in 2005.
If we look at the stats.
We change years every week. I can't keep track.
Man, Luka, DBook, Jokic. So that's 3-2, right? So we picked on the 2005 side, we picked Tim Duncan and Dirk. In 2022, we picked Jokic, DBook, and Duncan.
I think if you put those teams on a court against each other for some of the floor spacing reasons and speed and athleticism, I do think the 2022 team beats them 5v5. I will say. I ain't gonna think about this right now. Well, I mean, it's tough because they also played. We've seen a lot of these guys. There's more Hall of Famers. Obviously, there's four.
That's the problem with this is it's so easy to look at names: Nash, Iverson, Dirk, Duncan, Shaq. These big Hall of Famers, huge legacies, and look at some of the newer guys: Luka, Booker, Tatum, Giannis, Jokic. They're all new to the scene. Don't fall into the nostalgia trap of saying these guys are greater, they're better.
I mean, whoa.
Because greater doesn't always mean better.
Because Shaq is the most dominant player of all time.
Correct.
So I think when we took in accountability, because nobody can stop him. Obviously, we have Giannis on this list, who is like a baby Shaq in a sense, right? So you can put him, you can put a body on him, like he can do something with that. But Shaq is still Shaq. Yeah. When we look at Tim Duncan is interesting because a lot of people. I heard this thought the other day: is Tim Duncan a top 5 player of all time?
He might be.
It's tough.
I think I have him 7. I've had this conversation with people before, and I think Tim Duncan gets disrespected. I want to be honest.
His resume is so close to Kobe's, but Kobe's flashier and cooler, and people put him ahead.
We're on the same, and I am a Kobe fan, but this is gonna make some people mad out here. We're gonna make some people mad. Tim Duncan should be higher on the list than Kobe. Tim Duncan should be higher on the list than Kobe.
If you think about it, like, is Kobe a shooting guard, right?
Yes. Shooting guard. Yep.
So. Is MJ a small forward or shooting guard?
He's a shooting guard.
All right, so the best shooting guard of all time is MJ, right?
Hands down. Yes.
All right, so the second is Kobe Bryant?
Yes. I'm fine with that.
All right. If you look at power forward, there isn't any argument. Tim Duncan is the best power forward of all time.
I don't think we should let positions dictate who's better.
I'm just saying it adds to the resume if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Like when you think about power forward, you think Tim Duncan.
Yeah,
Tim Duncan, has 5 rings, correct?
5 rings.
He's been to 6 finals.
Correct.
He's beat Braun twice.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you got to think about that. Like
Tim Duncan also had that longevity. Like they both played a long time, but Kobe, you think of the injuries towards the end of the career. Duncan.
I'm not gonna fault him for that.
I don't think Tim Duncan had that many injuries, but that's important.
And if you think about longevity,
we talk about
everybody always says like the problem is like he wasn't cool or he was. Because don't get me wrong, the Spurs were born as shit.
How close they are on all defensive teams, all first.
But like
teams,
we don't talk about nobody ever mentions
one.
Duncan in top 5. If you don't have him in your top 5, like I get it, but like I think there is a level. Like as I'm getting older, I'm realizing how disrespected he was.
Mm-hmm. I think it's disrespectful to not have him in your top 10. I will say that. But if you don't have him in your top 5, it's whatever. But if you don't have him in your top 10, that shows me. You really like a lot of the flash and like substance matters, right? And this guy won. I don't know how many all defensive teams does he is almost the same as Kobe.
They are. I just pulled them up.
Neck and neck.
It's crazy how similar they are. All first teams, Kobe has 1 more. All defensive teams, Kobe has 1 more. Finals MVP, Duncan only has 1 more.
Yeah,
I miss.
The point being is, and it depends on how you feel about it. There's no world, in my opinion, where they should just be this far apart. Or you think they're a lot closer than you think, and I actually think Duncan probably deserves more of the edge than people give him credit for.
Yeah. It's also Lakers versus Spurs too. Mm-hmm. The Spurs are a recent dynasty, but it is the NBA dynasty against Spurs.
It's the disappearing act, right? If you look at like Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the greatest players there were.
Also needs more credit on his respect.
But like he's around, but like he's not around. You know, so like people don't get to see him or hear about him, or like there's no reason to talk about him. Like that's gonna be the thing with Jokic. Jokic is gonna go the fuck away on his horse, and we're never gonna talk about him
He's
again.
gonna be out in Serbia.
So, but then there's gonna be those like little highlights, like remember how good he was? Why nobody talk about him?
Yeah.
Like,
It's tough because like the top 5 argument too. It's really tough because obviously you have like the obvious ones to me coming off the top of my head is no order, like LeBron, Jordan, Wilt, Kareem, even Bill Russell, and like that top 5, like it's hard to break into that top 5 to me. Like Duncan is fine as a 6, but I do think Duncan will be at a Kobe. But because of Kobe, Black Mamba, like all that stuff with Kobe after he retired and stuff, Tim Duncan, he's a quiet player. That's why people love like certain players in the league because they're so much louder and so much out there. Like a guy like Shai, he's pretty quiet, but he's unreal, unbelievable, and he deserves much more credit than he gets. Obviously, he was first team All-Pro. Like, yes, but he deserves even more credit for that. Yeah, he deserves all that credit. But he's a quiet guy, so people are not going to think him off the top of my head. Like, when we were talking top 5 point guards,
I left him out.
We all left Shai out. But he deserves to be a top 5 guard.
I don't think he's a top 5 point guard.
He should be.
I don't think he is.
But
the reason why, I think Shai is different because he's in the social media era and he's like a fashion guy, so like he's cool.
Yeah.
So like Tim Duncan had some of the worst outfits you've ever seen in your life. So
the
like
MVP is so
you know, and
funny.
my thing about Tim Duncan is just like my last point I'll make, and we'll get off this, is that we are in the social media area where it is the rings era, and Tim Duncan got 5 of them bitches. And nobody even mentions him. So when you have the ring era and you don't talk about Tim Duncan, that's fucking crazy.
Listen, I don't think you're tripping on that. And to your point that you're making, Gio, I think people get too emotionally connected to like, and this is somebody who loves Kobe. Kobe's one of my favorite players of all time. So I want to be very clear on this. But we get
LeBron or Kobe?
LeBron's a better player.
All right.
See, older heads, like when I talk to like some of my older uncles who are like 40, 50, they're like, Kobe's better than LeBron. I'm like, you're nuts.
Here's the thing, and I loved Kobe.
Yes.
But I can say that. We can have nuance. We can have debate. We can have hot takes. We can do all that stuff, and we can still have nuance and not – we all watch basketball, right? We don't have to be so emotionally invested in being like, man, I love the whole Black Mamba ethos. Tim Duncan was born, and you're right. You said that the Spurs were boring as fuck. You're right. Yeah. They were. Nobody was really being like, man, I want to watch these Spurs games. But Tim Duncan was a monster, guys. He was a monster. He was an amazing player. 5 rings. Any stats you could bring up, this guy's the greatest power forward of all time. Everything that we've said, he's a beast.
Well, Tim Duncan's from the Virgin Islands, right?
Yep.
That's a part of America, no? Right?
That is.
Yeah, so, but really, I feel like that team was just overseas propaganda.
Overseas propaganda.
Yo, Dexter, is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Yo, I just want to say thank you. I like what you guys are doing. I had a fun time here. It is good. You guys have really good, intelligent conversation. And I see how these guys keep you balanced, man. Like, that's the thing. They got to keep you balanced because when you're doing a show with a bunch of other people, sometimes it's hard with different personalities, but you guys are making it work, and it's fun. So whenever you guys want me back, I will come back. But thanks for having me, and appreciate everybody supporting these guys, and check out my work with SNY New York Post. Always doing some great stuff. So thanks, guys.
Shout out your handle. Shout out your handle.
Oh, my handle @DHenryTV. Follow me on all social media platforms with that.
Yes, this has been another episode of Hard in the Paint. We out here, like and subscribe, gang. Does JBobby make you angry? Well, that's good. Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe, baby.